And we live.
Oh, what up, leaguers? Welcome to the Spectacular Spoiler League. I'm the Pandan Superman, the mayor of Hype City, HazyRome, and as always, I'm joined by the Gotham Knight, the Prime Minister of Post-Production, DeepBoyce. And today we're in the Hall of Spoilers to talk about a new Star Wars trilogy being directed and run and headed and led by director Rian Johnson, director of Star Wars The Last Jedi. DeepBoyce, we're about to get a new trilogy from Star Wars that's separate from the Skywalker saga, man. But first, let me say what up to the people watching in the live stream right now. Let me say what up to the people watching this as a video, holding it down for the Spectacular Spoiler League. If you like anything you're about to hear in this conversation, and trust me, you're gonna, hit that subscribe button, drop a like to help this video get out there. We greatly appreciate it. But with that being said, enjoy the rest of the video. DeepBoyce, Skywalker trilogy out the window for now, because I'm gonna talk to you about that in a segundo. All right. But I mean, we're getting more Star Wars from Rian Johnson, man. A new trilogy.
Rian Johnson is gonna be making a whole lot of money. He's making 3 Star Wars movies. And it looks like they're going to give him free reign to do whatever he wants.
Listen, they must like The Last Jedi, because at the time of this live stream, at the time of recording, this Last Jedi thing, like, nobody knows. There's been no, like, early reviews, bro. This is purely internal by Disney. This is, like, purely them being hyped. Like, yo, this dude, Rian Johnson, is the GOAT. We're going to bring him on for a new trilogy. You know what I'm saying? Because right off the bat with that deal, I mean, that kind of makes him sort of the new mastermind of the Star Wars universe.
Jedi
I mean, think about
mastermind. So I did there.
I did, and I'm about to boot you out of this conversation. If you keep dwelling. But what do we want from this new trilogy of movies, man? I mean, there are a number of directions they could go. It's not going to be based on the Skywalker family, so there's multiple directions that they could go with this. And, you know, for those people worrying that the Skywalker trilogy or the Skywalker family may not get further movies, I think, let's just say that Kathleen Kennedy has made a statement about whether or not Kathleen Kennedy is the president of Lucasfilm, who, you know, makes Star Wars movies. So she put out a statement and during an interview where it was a Star Wars show weekly web series that they do. And she basically said this regarding more Star Wars movies after episode 9. She said, we're sitting down, we're talking about the next 10 years of Star Wars stories, and we're looking at, narratively, where that might go. Future stories beyond episode 9 with these characters, Rey, Finn, Poe, BB-8. But we're also looking at working with people who are interested in coming into the Star Wars world and taking us places we haven't been yet. That's exciting too, because it's a vast galaxy far away. And in comes Rian Johnson today with Disney closing a deal. It's clear Kathleen Kennedy was referring to Rian Johnson and maybe some other directors about what they're going to do. But DeepBoyce, man, what do we want to see, man? We talked about this. There's a couple things we want to see from this new trilogy and potential directions they could go, potential avenues within the Star Wars universe they could take. What do we want to see, man?
Honestly, I don't even know where to start. You know, I'm gonna start with one of the things that I love absolutely the most out of Star Wars. Unfortunately, it's no longer canon, and a few people have alluded to this, but I'm gonna have to throw that out there. Rian Johnson, if you're listening, hook me up with a job. Hook up Hazy with a job, and then please listen to our suggestions.
I appreciate you threw me into that. I was like, damn, I don't think he's gonna get me a job. I appreciate it. Thank you, man.
Nah, man,
dope.
I ain't no Lando Calrissian here. I'm not gonna. I ain't selling you out. But what I want to see, and what some people are kind of alluding to,
is a Jar Jar Binks trilogy. I knew it. I knew it, DeepBoyce. I knew you couldn't resist yourself. I knew you couldn't help it.
Jar Jar Binks, no longer part of the Galactic Senate, falls to the dark side. But Misa
him alongside some Jedi Ewoks would be just the best thing we've ever seen from Star Wars.
Ooh, now you're thinking. Now you're thinking with portals right now. But what we want to see is something that takes place in the Old Republic. Because we all love Knights of the Old Republic, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic by BioWare, one of the best RPGs of all time.
One of the best RPGs of all time. And if you guys are into gaming, we've got a gaming channel called Get Coins or Die Trying. You need to hit that with a subscribe. You need to get on that. Get Coins or Die Trying on YouTube. YouTube.com/GCDTcast. GCDTCAST. DeepBoyce, continue.
Knights of the Old Republic. Well, we don't know. I mean, obviously, Rian Johnson's going to get creative control. So even if he does something that is somewhat like Knights of the Old Republic, like the story of Darth Revan and Darth Malak and the evil, Sith Lord, that's like,
who are these people? Explain, because I've yet to immerse myself fully in KOTOR. I have the game. But I have yet to immerse myself fully in it. You're the expert. You've told me, you've spoiled KOTOR for me, DeepBoyce.
I will spoil it for the people here that haven't checked it out themselves. But I'll try and give a bit of a... Okay, so it takes some place after a Mandalorian war between the Mandalorians and the Republic. And the Republic is weakened. And out of nowhere comes in the new Sith Empire, led by Darth Malak. There's a little bit of backstory there. He was the apprentice of Darth Revan. Darth Revan is nowhere to be seen, but these new Sith are coming in, ready to destabilize the Republic. And you, as an adult,
you as an adult,
the player. I mean, this is a BioWare game. You can be whoever you want to be. Honestly, you are thrust into all of this and tasked with maybe toppling the Sith Empire from disrupting the galaxy and destroying the Republic. Obviously, it sounds very familiar, but there's so much that goes on there. It's a fantastic story, and it's a little bit more mature than what you get from your usual Star Wars fest. And I mean, honestly, that's again, for the fans out there, they know what to expect. They know what to expect from Knights of the Old Republic. Rian Johnson. If you do anything that's even like that, or if you just decide to put it in that setting during a period of time where there were tons of Jedi
and tons of Sith, right? If I'm not mistaken,
yes,
tons of dark side users.
Yes, and I mean, I guess it's a little difficult to kind of remix the whole the Republic is in danger, the Sith Empire is doing this.
Yeah,
without falling into the kind of the pitfalls of the Phantom Menace, where it's like this kind of political intrigue that isn't all that interesting.
Sure, that's definitely not a pit we need this new trilogy to fall into.
Yes, but again, it was a dope story with some dope characters, and it takes place, like you said, when we were talking about this, it takes place so far back into the past that, again, it allows them a lot of breathing room to kind of really create their own mythos, because the extended universe isn't, I mean, yeah, it's not canon, but they give this nice name, this nice term called legends. So it's like mythical, and myths aren't, you don't know if they're true or if they're not true. So they're not, it's out there. So you can really kind of have the breathing room to do whatever it is you want, and to introduce new characters, new Sith Lords that we've never heard of, because it's not really going to disrupt anything that's already happened.
Exactly.
Because it's a long, long time ago, far, far away. Things get lost. I mean, look at your boy Anakin. I mean, how much did the Jedi lose because Anakin was just murking everybody, and they're just wiping everything out?
You look at like 20 years roughly in between the prequel trilogy, the end of the prequel trilogy, and the beginning of the original trilogy. I'm talking about like in story timeline. And people already think Jedi are just legends. Like, they already forgotten most of the things. So imagine if you went like 1,000 years. And they've referred to that timeline before in the prequel series, thousands of years ago, the Jedi Order, blah, 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 blah. Like, if you go back that far in time, I mean, the only person who could reasonably be alive roughly 1,000 years ago is like Yoda, like baby Yoda. But if you went back so far back in time that, honestly, none of the storyline plot lines would even matter to the main trilogy, that would be pretty dope. You know what I'm saying? I mean, one thing that could be dope too, maybe they talk about, if they do want to tie into the first 6 movies, maybe they could talk about the prophecy, because we don't know much about the whole prophecy that predicted someone who would bring balance to the Force. Maybe we could see an interpretation of that while exploring, the Knights of the Old Republic. But I mean, to me, that seems like an awesome idea.
And one main thing that I actually forgot to mention, I think this is important, and would kind of set this Old Republic, KOTOR trilogy apart, is one of the main themes of that game is a splintering in the Jedi, in the Jedi Order, in terms of how hands-off should they be? Should they be involved in things and help out, or should they let the Force work its way through? Because again, the backstory is this Mandalorian threat that happened years before, and Revan and Malik were Jedi, young Jedi that decided to split and gather other Jedi to go fight with the Republic against the Mandalorians, and it just caused a lot of bloodshed, and a lot of people fell to the dark side because there's a lot of violence. And then you struggle with this idea of what makes sense, the Jedi being monks and just being hands off, letting things happen, or taking initiative and taking that risk to save people, even though you may or may not fall to the dark side.
I even got one more wish that I would like to see in this Knights of the Old Republic trilogy, and that is a Mandalorian Jedi by the name of Tar Vizsla. Ooh. So in canon, Tar Vizsla is the person who actually created the darksaber. So if you've ever watched Clone Wars or Rebels, there's essentially a lightsaber, but it's black. It's got like kind of a sharp point. They call it a darksaber because obviously it being black, it doesn't emit light. And Tar Vizsla is the person who legendarily crafted this lightsaber. This person was a Jedi who crafted, a Mandalorian Jedi who crafted this lightsaber, and this lightsaber is a representation of Vizsla, let's say Vizsla authority, for the Mandalorians. Anyone who wields a darksaber is seen to be someone who can lead the Mandalorian people. Showing Tar Vizsla in the midst of this would not only give ties to a super dope faction of people that haven't yet been explored, like the Mandalorians, but it would also, have some type of heritage and meaning for characters like Boba Fett, who people love, who's Mandalorian, and people freaking love Mandalorians. And you know what I'm saying? Like, I need to see some Tar Vizsla in there, and I need to see that darksaber being created. And that's another thing with the Knights of the Old Republic. It's something that DeepBoyce has, informed me about, things I've seen. I like lightsabers of lots of colors, all right? I know it's childish, but I like seeing, like when I saw Mace Windu's purple lightsaber, my mind, like, exploded. On Clone Wars, when I saw the Jedi Sentinels wielding yellow lightsaber pikes, when I saw the darksaber, like, just give me some lightsaber colors, bro, and I'm good, man. Just give me like Skittle colors for lightsabers.
You're right about that. KOTOR had tons of different colors, including my favorite, and you hardly ever see it, a bronze lightsaber. It's out there.
Bronze.
Look it up. It looks dope.
Yeah, man. But I mean, you brought up an idea of Jedis being, having a faction of Jedi. Jedi's kind of splitting off from each other. Jedi splitting off from each other and having different ideologies. So I kind of had an idea that's sort of based on not Knights of the Old Republic, but present day. Okay, so we know that we haven't seen the Last Jedi yet, but we know that Luke wants to end the Jedi, or he thinks that the Jedi need to change in some way. I was thinking, what if in the future, fast forward years after Luke changes the Jedi, maybe they start incorporating some dark side, techniques into who they are, because I think that Luke is going to call for something that's a little bit more of a balance, not too much of the light, not too much of a dark, something in between. But what if a splinter group of people who remember the old Jedi ways? Remember, there are a lot of people who consider the Jedi to be representations of this great religion of the Force. What if there's a faction of people who are essentially Jedi zealots, like Force-sensitive people who remember the idea of Luke Skywalker? They may even, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 50 years from, the end of The Last Jedi or the end of this sequel trilogy, maybe they see Luke Skywalker as sort of this herald, you know what I mean? And they honor him, or maybe even someone like Obi-Wan, who never strayed away from the Jedi values, and they herald them as these absolute people within the Jedi Order, to the point where they're sort of zealots, and their focus is to eradicate anybody who doesn't hold true to the purity of the Jedi Order and the practices that the original Jedi Order, instilled. So what if these people, and you might be saying, well, if they're the bad guys in the story, why aren't they dark side users? Well, the whole idea is, if they feel like, and we saw with the Clone Wars, if they feel like they're doing things for the peace of the galaxy, if they think they're doing the right thing, maybe they don't see it as them being evil. So maybe you have these Jedi zealots basically looking at this new order that Luke Skywalker has established, post Last Jedi, post sequel trilogy, and they look at that order as almost like corrupt, an order that has taken the Jedi values and literally turn it into something, you know, disgusting to them? And what if they, you know, want to come after whoever it is who's leading this order? What if it becomes like a three-way battle between this new order of Jedi who balance the light and the dark, whoever the dark side force users are, and these new Jedi zealots? I mean, I feel like that would be a compelling idea. You know what I'm saying?
Interesting. Yeah. No, I mean, definitely a trilogy or a set of movies that I guess showcase some characters that have some moral ambiguity, which I guess it is sort of teasing with The Last Jedi. And, you know, there have been little bits and flavors of that here and there. But again, just kind of exploring more about the big middle, shall I say, gray area of
Gray Jedi. I see what you did there, sir. I see what you did there, sir.
Because the Jedi, I mean, they allude to the fact that the Jedi Order and the Sith have interpreted things differently in many different ways throughout the years, throughout the millennia.
And one may not have been completely right or completely wrong. Maybe there's somewhere in between.
Yeah, like the spectrum has never been constant. It's always changed.
Exactly.
They've always done things differently. And a lot of the main characters, a lot of characters we know and love, I mean, Luke, for a good example, is in defiance to the rules. I mean, he's much like his father. They were a little too old to be Jedi.
Exactly.
I mean, Luke was old as hell.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Luke was like way more than like 2 times the age of people who normally start training as Padawans. Yeah. You know, when he started training the ways of the Force, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, you talked about disobedience, DeepBoyce, and I wanted to bring up an idea that you mentioned to me before we started this video.
Yes.
And that is the notion of maybe focusing on some younger people who are Force sensitive. But I'm gonna pass it over to you to let you give the down low on it, because I thought it was an awesome idea, and I think people listening right now might enjoy it.
Now, guys, hear me out. You know, we all know about the X-Men, right? They're a group of mutants from Marvel, now owned by Disney. And
you wish in your dreams. It hasn't happened yet. Over Fox's dead body.
But anyway, there's the X-Men. They're more of the adults. And then at some point, they created a new group called the New Mutants, and they were younger mutants. So what if they take, because they've been, you know, we've heard news before about there being a, I guess, quote unquote, young adults take on the Star Wars universe. Maybe
rumors.
Movie. Maybe a nice compromise, because, you know, I don't know about you, Hazy, but when I hear young adult in terms of books or movies or whatever, I change the channel. I'm not really.
I tune off. I switch my mind off. I'm like, I'm not a young adult anymore. I spent my time going through young adulthood. I'm not a young adult now. You see this beard? You see all this? I got a gray hair somewhere in here. I'm older. Okay, I don't want to see that young adult stuff.
We're full on adults at this point. But a nice compromise here is, what if we get a group of characters that are Jedis, but they're Jedi Padawans, or maybe even Jedi Knights? Maybe it's, you know, like teenagers and, again, young adults who are both Padawans and Jedi Knights. Because, again, for a Padawan to become a Jedi Knight, they have to be trained properly by a Jedi Knight or a Jedi Master. And for a Jedi Master, one of the requisites for them to become a Jedi Master is to successfully train a Padawan. So why not have a core group, again, of young people? You know, obviously they're going to be young, good-looking people, because this is Hollywood we're talking about here, and they got powers. And they're going on adventures throughout the universe, dealing with being young, being orphaned or maybe taken away from their families, dealing with the tenets of the Jedi Order, maybe being seduced by the dark side a little bit, maybe falling in love here and there.
Younger Sith users, younger dark side users, you know, because we've heard stories of Sith and dark side users. I mean, Asajj Ventress from the Clone Wars, you know, her storyline was she was a Padawan, right? Yeah. But when her master died, basically, you know, she was taken by a Sith. You know what I mean? She was taken by Count Dooku. He trained her, and she never really had a choice, you know, or she fell to the dark side after her master died, and eventually she ended up in the hands of Count Dooku. You know what I mean? She fell on the wrong path. Like, what if we got to see that struggle? You know, I think that's super compelling, man.
Because they always, I mean, we were talking about this, but they always kind of breeze through that period of time of like from episode 1 to 2. It's like we don't see any of that training. Anakin's already like a beast.
Yeah, yeah, he skips 10 years pretty much.
Yeah.
We don't even get to see that lighthearted kid turn into this, brooding, no emotion guy.
Yeah,
that he was.
And Luke wasn't a Padawan at all. I mean, he's like an entrepreneur of a Jedi. I mean, he just he pretty much learned everything on his own.
Right.
And once we got to like episode episode 6, he had a good handle on things. And episode 7, no, I'm getting my numbers all mixed up. From episode 5 and 6, he was out there whooping ass. He was making it happen. And,
The only person we really got to see ascend from Padawan to full-on Jedi Knight was Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah. And, going from I mean, pretty much the Phantom Menace, episode 1, he essentially was elevated to the rank of Jedi Knight after he defeated Darth Maul. But we never see people struggle with the values, as they get older. You know what I mean? Like, these Jedi youngling, they never knew their family. They never knew their parents. These younglings are taken into the temple, and by all accounts, it's not like they're assigned to a master. So they don't even have like that father figure or mother figure or adult figure, until later on when they become full Padawan learners. The younglings are just growing up. Seems like, for lack of a better way to say it, I think of like Spartan barracks, in ancient Greece, Spartans were training boys from the age of 7. Just chilling in barracks, you know what I'm saying? Like these younglings are taken from a young age. It might be interesting to see a group of younger, force-sensitive people in the midst of training, and I think that would fit that young adult demographic that Disney wants to appeal to.
I got another suggestion.
Suggest away.
Another suggestion before we slip in our fifth and last. But I'm gonna have to give this. Credit to AMJ every day in the chat. The mod.
What up, AMJ?
The mod with the bod. The mod out here, he's always holding it down. And he wrote something rather interesting that kind of, got the sparks going in my brain. But he said, why not have a movie where the main characters are Sith?
AMJ. Holding it down in the chat and in the videos, because I'd be down for that.
I mean,
I'd be more than down for that.
I correct me if I'm wrong. Are they doing or are they not doing a Darth Vader solo movie? There's so many news that I can't keep track of.
There's not one right now. Personally, I think that would be a little bit tough to do a Darth Vader solo movie. As much as I want to see Darth Vader in his prime, it might be a little bit tough seeing it from his focus, or from his point of view. I would personally be down if they did another Dark Force user, somebody else who turns to the dark side, whether it be in the future or in the past. It could be in this Old Republic setting, but it would be interesting to see the perspective of someone who is fully immersed in the dark side. I mean, not like Anakin, where we saw him change to the dark side, fully immersed in the dark side as, in air quotes, the protagonist. You know what I'm saying? I know that Dark Force users are definitely antagonists in the Star Wars universe, but what if we saw somebody who, case in point, Star Killer from The Force Unleashed. Perfect example of a Dark Force user who we take the reins of and who we navigate through in the midst of a story where he's essentially slaughtering mad people, but he's eventually doing the right thing, and he's Darth Vader's apprentice. He's fully dark side, you know what I'm saying? Fully dark side. So maybe it'd be interesting to see a Sith, or a dark. I say dark side because I don't want to focus on Sith and the Rule of Two. Although the Rule of Two could be interesting because you get to see a young Lord in the making with a corrupt and frankly disturbing master. And with the dark side, one of the staples of the Sith is to eventually want to kill your master. Yeah. So maybe you being this this corrupt protagonist. You looking at the master, maybe the master is the villain of the story, the true villain of the story. You know what I mean? I think that would be pretty dope.
And also, depending on when it takes place, maybe that Rule of Two isn't in effect. Because again, I think it was Palpatine that started it, right?
It was
Plagueis? No, Bane. Darth Bane.
It was Darth Bane who established the Rule of Two in canon. Before, the Sith were essentially just warring with each other, and it was essentially stopping them from officially conquering the Jedi. But just because there's the Rule of Two doesn't mean you can't have two people who believe themselves to be the Sith Lord. Case in point, Star Wars Clone Wars animated series, right? We had Palpatine, we had Dooku, And then we also had Darth Maul come back with Savage Opress as his brother and apprentice. And he wanted to slowly subvert Palpatine. And we saw, I mean, in a fantastic sequence that this is a tease for another video. We're going to be talking about some Star Wars fights, the top Star Wars fights. But, we see Palpatine go and say, yo, you were causing trouble for me. You're a loose end, and I need to end that. But, I mean, to wrap things up, man, we saw somebody, his name was Gordon. He was in the chat, and he was talking about, this is news that's kind of flown under the radar with Rian Johnson talking about a TV series. And I thought that this final idea for the trilogy could also be used for this Star Wars TV series that's going to be coming to Disney's streaming service in 2019 when it launches. So they're going to be doing a live-action Star Wars TV series. And me and DeepBoyce were thinking, what better than to focus on the group of Star Wars characters that people love that don't need lightsabers, they need blasters. And we're talking about bounty hunters, man. DeepBoyce, you're a huge bounty hunter fan. I mean, what would that mean to you to see a TV show or a trilogy of movies focused on bounty hunters? I mean, George Lucas was originally developing a TV series tentatively titled Star Wars: Underground, which is going to focus on some bounty hunters. However, the production cost was way too high for the episodes. So,
George Lucas was doing this right now. I mean, he's got enough money. He could have funded it.
He said each episode was too high. He said the current production cost to make an episode, and this is years ago this happened, was way too high, and it just wasn't feasible, and that you could do way more in animation, hence the birth of shows like the Clone Wars. So, but I mean, a TV show or a trilogy of movies based around bounty hunters, they've been talking about Boba Fett having his solo movie. What if this trilogy is about Boba Fett? I want to see Boba Fett in the TV series. I don't know about that. I don't know if they're going to use Boba for TV. That's a marketable character there.
It is. And look, I'm a Boba Fett fan. I'll admit. I readily admit it. But I think it's time to bring me something new. I don't know if we should revisit Boba Fett. I don't know if we should revisit episodes 4 through 6. I think we've done enough there. So if we're gonna do a bounty hunter, hey, how about Cad Bane?
Cad Bane's a cool character.
I don't have a problem with Cad
personally, Cad Bane's I ain't gonna listen. Here's my thing about Boba. I don't dislike Boba. Okay. I just feel like Boba is overrated for what he did in the original trilogy. And I think every person who liked Boba can agree that Boba didn't get a fair shake. So I'd be down for some Boba. You know what I'm saying? If you're gonna pick someone from previous lore, I'm gonna go with Boba over Cad Bane. But I'd be down if they introduce some other bounty hunters. I mean, not to bring this back to video games again, but Visceral game studio that was recently closed by EA. Once again, if you guys are down to hear us talk about video games, youtube.com/GCDTcast. That's where it's at. But they had Star Wars 1313, which was supposed to be a game focused on bounty hunters, introducing 2 new bounty hunter characters to Star Wars lore. I mean, what if they did something like that, man, where, we got to see some new bounty hunters and some fresh faces, maybe even some old faces. Maybe Boba Fett, makes a cameo in this movie. Maybe he's part of a team. Maybe he's the primary antagonist. I mean, that would be cool to see Boba Fett be the badass that you're going up against.
True. You know what I mean? In the original trilogy, they set up, they had like 5-6 bounty hunters right there. They could all be recurring characters in this bounty hunter / smuggler show, or even trilogy or of movies. I mean, to an extent, Rogue One was well received. I think that's a step in the right direction in terms of just
a group of rogues.
In the Star Wars universe. Yeah. Doesn't really have to do much with the Jedi. Just kind of delve more into, planets, societies, alien races, things going on that don't necessarily I would kind of like something that didn't deal with the end of all existence, or just some sort of major threat that puts everything at risk. Just tell us, a drama, a story about people going through things. Sure. You know what I'm saying? Sure. Set in Star Wars.
I don't mind if the stakes are high, but it doesn't necessarily have to. I mean, we don't need any more super weapons, Disney. We've had our fill of super weapons. We've had, New Hope. We had Return of the Jedi. We had The Force Awakens. Unless the super weapon is a person, we don't need any more super weapons, man. But I mean, DeepBoyce, man, any final words to wrap up the conversation before we head on out of here?
Listen, Star Wars: The Last Jedi needs to come out. As of making this video,
I'm ready. I'm ready.
All of them, everything. This new trilogy, the next 2 movies, any TV shows that they're doing, I want them all like yesterday. I want to just binge watch all of them. Big Star Wars fan. KOTOR 3, make it happen. Star Wars, everywhere, all the time. I'm a glutton for Star Wars. Let's make it happen.
Indeed, man. Congratulations to Rian Johnson, and congratulations to you. Yes, you, the viewer, because you just hit that subscribe button because you were listening to me and you were listening to DeepBoyce and you like this conversation. Subscribe to the Spectacular Spoiler League. Hit that little bell icon right next to the subscribe button to turn on notifications so you can be up to date with the latest and greatest coming from the Spectacular Spoiler League. Drop a like on the video to help this video get out there so other people can enjoy this lovely conversation and so that we don't feel lonely here in the Hall of Spoilers. With that being said, me and DeepBoyce, we're getting out of here. Thank everybody watching this video and thank everybody in the live stream right now. We'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.